Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. The D16Y8 crapped out again. No, I'm just kidding. Everything is fine on it. It's running smooth. There's nothing wrong with it. So the engine component of this build is actually complete, which I'm super happy about. But the project itself is not finished yet. There's lots more work to be done, like the bodywork, suspension upgrades, etc. There's lots to be done on it. So stay tuned for those kind of videos of me working on the car. But until it's done, I'm hoping to get it done by the end of summer next year. But for now, it's going to be a winter project. It is getting colder here in Vancouver, so summer is officially gone. But today's video is actually about how much it costs to do one of these kind of engine swaps. So a D-series swap. People think that a D-series swap is cheap, but it's only cheap if you buy the motor, do nothing to it, and drop it in. But if you want to do it the right way, you replace all the seals and all that gaskets and all that kind of stuff, it gets pretty pricey. So today is actually going over the cost of everything to put this engine in. I actually have a connection in the automotive industry. So to my connection, thank you for helping me with the discount and all that stuff for the parts. So, really appreciate it. I'm going to be going over what it costs list price, like MSRP price, not the discounted price I got it at, because the discounted price is essentially my connection's employee discount. So it is a lot cheaper, not by a whole significant amount, but it is cheaper. But I'm going to be going over what the list price is. You can probably get things cheaper, like on eBay and all stuff, using China-made parts. But keep in mind that I use a lot of OE or the OE manufacturer's parts. So it's good quality parts that I put onto the engine. It's not like the cheaper China replica, or not really replica, but the cheaper China aftermarket parts. So keep that in mind. It is a little bit more pricey, but you're getting more of a quality part to put onto the engine. And the last thing you want is to put everything together and things start crapping out, right? So you gotta trust the parts manufacturer. And yeah, so today's video I'm gonna be basically walking you through everything that I changed on the engine and how much it costs, so that you get a general idea of how much this kind of swap the proper way would cost. And this is not including any of the miscellaneous parts, for example, like gasket, maker, brake cleaner, and all that kind of stuff. So, all that is extra, but I'm not going to be tacking that onto the price. But I'll give you guys a total of how much it's actually going to cost at MSRP. So let's get to it. So let's start off how much it costs for me to buy the engine. So the engine itself here, just the engine without the transmission and everything, cost me $300. It did come with a automatic intake manifold. I had to go to the wrecker and buy a manual intake manifold. But let's just say it cost $300 for the whole setup, because you could actually pick one up for $300 in a manual setup. The ECU that I'm running on here is a P28. This cost me $80. And these are all Canadian, by the way. I had to use a OBD0 to OBD1 conversion harness, which cost me $62. This is completely optional. I painted this. This actually cost me $23 for the paint. I used the VHT wrinkle paint. Now, obviously, engine oil and the transmission oil needed to be replaced because, I'm doing an engine swap, you have to drain the fluids. So the 5W30 in the engine, that cost $17. The 10W30 in the transmission, that cost $17 as well. Now, the coolant also had to be changed. So the coolant here, that was, let's see here, that was $18 for the coolant and $2 for the distilled water. So just the coolant itself in total was like 20 bucks. I had to replace the fuel filter back here. You guys remember the video of that. The fuel filter itself cost me $16. I had to replace the header here because of the crack. That cost me $66 for the header, but that included the gaskets and everything for the header, as you can see in the previous video. Not very good gaskets, but still gaskets. Now, the engine itself, for the oil, it needed an oil filter. The oil filter itself cost $12. This rad cap, because there was too much fluid going into the overflow. So the rad cap was bad. That cost $37. Now I replaced all 4 engine mounts. Keep in mind, you can get these engine mounts probably cheaper. You probably even get performance engine mounts. But at MSRP list price for these were $339. You could probably pick them up for like about 160 bucks on eBay, but you know, the total I'm going to be using is $339. Now this valve cover here, the whole gasket set, including the spark plug gaskets and all that kind of stuff, that cost $61. The camshaft seal here, that cost $6. The thermostat back here, that cost $35. The thermostat gasket cost $6. The VTEC solenoid, which is right here, that has a gasket, and that gasket costs $25. I had to replace the fan switch, which is on the thermostat somewhere, because the one on this motor was broken, and the fan switch cost $63. Now onto the distributor. The distributor has the O-ring, which is $2, the rotor, which is $38, and the cap, which is $32. So at the back of the engine, underneath the intake manifold, there's a PCV valve that costs $33. The spark plugs itself, all 4 spark plugs, that costs $39. Now the ignition wires here, the NGK lifetime warranty wires are $167. Now this is obviously, I said that my exhaust manifold came with a gasket, but if you have to replace the gasket on it, the gasket costs $26. I had to replace the intake manifold gasket as well. Obviously, most people won't be taking their intake manifold off; they just drop it in. So, but the intake manifold had to be swapped, so that was $17. Now onto the timing components. So the timing belt tensioner costs $85. The water pump, $96. The timing belt itself, that costs $71. The timing belt cover actually was missing the gasket, so that gasket was $35. Now onto the alternator belt. I'm gonna need a special belt for that. That belt was $35. Now onto the bottom end of the engine. Now the crankshaft main seal, which is the seal between the transmission and the engine, that costs $29. The crankshaft seal on the oil pump side, now that costs $9. Now the dipstick, there's a little O-ring on it. I replaced the little O-ring, that was $2. The oil pan gasket itself, that was $39. Now this part is completely optional depending on the life that you have on your clutch and all that kind of stuff. But these are like the transmission components. Like the clutch itself, that was $222. The pressure plate was $242. The release bearing, which is the throwout bearing, that cost $73. The clip for that release bearing, that was $51. Now the flywheel, yeah, keep in mind the flywheel you could probably definitely get cheaper on eBay. This was also a China-made flywheel as well. The flywheel itself is listed for $442, but you could probably pick one up for about 150 bucks. The pilot bearing for the flywheel, that was $18. Now the shift rod boot, there's a boot on the back of the transmission that I replaced. It was ripped. That was $25. The shift rod seal, which goes into the transmission, that was $10. Now I had to replace the driver's side CV axle. There's obviously a video on that. That was $227. Obviously, you could probably pick that up for about 100 bucks or 150 bucks on eBay as well. And obviously the 2 drive axle seals. So each seal is a different price. One was $14 and one was $12. So that basically covers off all the components that I did onto this engine. So, you know, I'm back in the shop now. You know, I kind of walked you guys through the cost of it. So the total cost for like a swap with all the parts in the MSRP list price is $3,276. Yes, it is quite expensive at that price. And keep in mind, yes, you could get some parts cheaper through eBay or something like that. I'm just going off with whatever the price was on those invoices. So for a normal person, like, you know, for the most part, if you go to any auto parts store, they usually give you about like a 15 to 20% discount anyways. If you talk to them and ask them, they usually call it a friend's discount or something like that. So with a friend's discount, you're looking at engine with all the parts about 2,800 bucks. You might not need everything that I replaced on here, but obviously, you know, everything I replaced is pretty pricey. If I had to pay 2,800 bucks, probably wouldn't, because that's a lot of money. You can buy a couple of these cars for that price. Even at the discounted price that I paid for them, I could buy myself another one of these cars and more. So, like I said, even though that the price says about $3,276, I didn't actually save that much more money than by going with employee discounted price parts. So it is pretty pricey. Yeah, you have to really want to build one of these cars to spend the money. But you know, that's the whole thing about a project, right? You just spend the money and just keep throwing at it, and hopefully, you know, things go smooth. Obviously this didn't. I mean, we finally got this thing running good, but you know, that's the video, guys. Thanks for watching, and you know, I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.